Well, if you're here, you know what that sound means. We're about to talk General Hospital. But first, let me welcome you to the inaugural SoapCon Live, the first Comic-Con for soaps. And I am so happy to be bringing this to you guys. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And that's not just because my name is Lucretia, but it is here, and you are at the big finale of the night. So without further ado, let's talk some General Hospital, okay? First, I have the mother to Scotty's only living child, sadly, R.I.P. Franco, the beautiful Shell Danielson, who played Dominique Stanton.
Hello.
Hello, Shell. And it wouldn't be a GH Love and Tragedy panel without the lovely Dr. Tony Jones, Brad Maule.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Brad.
Hello.
All right, and it wouldn't be GH if it wasn't for Scotty Baldwin himself, Mr. Kin Shriner.
Sit down.
He has to make an entrance.
Where am I?
You're right here. Square. Everybody can see us.
How you doing, Ken?
Okay.
Hi, Ken.
And of course, the soap opera is about the Spencers, Luke and Laura. But who got them together? Jackie Zeman, Bobbie Spencer.
I don't want to leave them.
You're in the show. Everyone can see you and hear you.
Hi, Jackie.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh. Hello?
Hello.
Yes,
Come, I don't hear
hello. See, this is the beauty of doing stuff virtually, guys. You deal with all the fun bits like this, and just because GH has been on forever. Let's just speak the elephant in the room. I was growing up, and I grew up watching all of you guys. So let's start with Jackie. I mean, you are Luke Spencer's sister. I mean, Luke and Laura's wedding was the most watched event in television history for the daytime genre. What is it like to be part of that legacy?
Very exciting. I mean, that was, I guess, if we had a heyday, I guess you'd say that was it. In those days, General Hospital was so popular. We were just so blessed. And I just feel lucky, to be on all these years, still on, once in a while. People would tell me that, they got through college watching our show and they would come home from school and watch, a generational thing with mom and grandma and kids. And that's how I started watching soap operas. I was a little kid. Those days, the TV was black and white. There was no clicker. You had to get up and turn it on and get up and turn it off. And you couldn't tape it. You had to watch it live. And everything was a half an hour, So really, I feel like I've seen the progression of soap operas evolve over the years to this wonderful place where we are now. And our audience is the most loyal, trustworthy, everlasting group of people because they stuck with us. Most of them started and kind of never gave up on us, are still watching today, and the kids are watching. And where else do you get that? There's nothing else on TV like that. You get news, sports, those things continue, and soap operas, General Hospital. So yeah, it's been a good ride.
And like you say, it's about the generations. What other show can you say I've watched with my family all my life, and all the different ways we can watch now that we couldn't then? And to think about, I set my grandmother up with my Hulu account. We both want to watch General Hospital, and we love to talk about, and we love that Bobbie is involved with the storyline now. I mean, Carly had you taking care of the old lady she kidnapped. I mean, that's crazy that we're still doing this, but I love it.
I think it's just the computer.
It could be at their end. No.
But your computer's just not clicking.
Well, and, it would be a soap opera without love and tragedy. And, of course, for Bobbie Spencer, would you say her true love is Dr. Tony Jones?
Yes, I would say that because, Brad and I had 9 years, right, Brad? 9 years married on TV.
Happy years.
That's long for soap years.
Happy, yeah. How often do you get that? So when the time came, of course, it was a great story when they broke us up, and Carly came on, and the Damien thing. But I wish we hadn't had to do that. I wish we could have stayed in that, marriage forever, because I think our characters were like as perfect as a match as you get on TV. And I would, I'm a romantic at heart, and I would like to believe, but I have to say, Brad, working with you was and continues to be a total joy whenever we get to do it. And I mean that on camera with our scenes, as well as off camera, all the stuff that we got to do just because we were friends and stuff we did promoting the show and all that. It's been one of the highlights of my life working with you.
Well, it's exactly the same for me. You sort of took care of me, and I appreciate that. Hi, Ken.
Oh, I think.
Can he hear you?
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
They're trying to figure it out. But that's, live TV. Can you imagine? Yeah. I never shot the soaps where it was live, but I know they did that. And that must have been. Did you both ever have to do that?
We did. We shot when I was on One Life to Live a million years ago. That was before I was on GH. It was my first contract role on a soap opera. We shot, and we had to give our cameras to the news. The news went on live at 5:00 in New York.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So we started shooting at 4:00, and we had to be done like at 5 because the camera and the crew was shooting the news. So if we had a wardrobe change, we would laugh. We joke. We'd have to change the top first before the bottom, because if you didn't have time to get to the bottom, they'd just shoot you tight.
Oh my gosh.
If you forgot your lines, they, you just made it up as you went along. And the stage managers used to stand out in the set behind the cameras, and because the scenes had to end exactly on time. So if the scene was going to end too soon, they'd go like this. This meant stretch, talk slower, think of something to fill the time. And if they went like this, that meant speed it up, because you're going off the air. And then they count. You got 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 4, 3. So you'd have to finish your line right on time before they went out.
Oh my gosh, that would be so incredibly stressful. And you really had to think on your toes, didn't you? I mean,
we did, but that was the best training in the world, because it was like live theater. It's like you go on a Broadway show, or you go in the theater, you can't forget your lines. You can't go, oh, sorry, buddy, can I try that again?
Yeah, another take. Well, and I used to say, I love working with Ken. I learned so much because he used to not always follow the script, and it was wonderful. There were some times, though, we couldn't pull it back, but he really taught me so much, and I was so grateful to get the chance to work with him. And
you're welcome.
It was fun.
Am I on right now? Am I still even?
There you are. I hear you.
We hear you, and we can see you.
Huh?
And this is where your good improvisation skills come in. Yeah.
Well, I was muted there for the last, which I think a lot of people would like to mute me, but I haven't muted for the last 10 minutes because we had to switch computers.
Oh, you're good.
Well, it's good that you had people helping you with that. Boy, it was.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've done one of these, so I got it working, but it was nerve-wracking. It's like, can I do this?
Yeah, it's a little sketchy. It gets worse every year. Every week something new pops up, and I'm trying to figure out TikTok now, which is never going to happen.
Oh,
but
dear.
Even I can't figure out TikTok.
No, TikTok.
Yeah. Do you have?
So, Shell, did you find working with Kin? He was always doing shtick.
Yes.
To me, when I work with him, it's shtick. He always thinks of a way to uplift it, make it funny, bring it energy. And Kin is impossible to hold still. So when you work with Kin, you got to learn to do this to stay in your lane.
Right. Well, and I remember there was the hair. What was your barber? Your
Caputo.
Yes, I mean the hair was always was worked
Caputo.
in.
I'm not sure if Brad ever went. Did Brad ever get you to Caputo's or no?
I did. You and I went out to lunch.
At lunch, we got in trouble for changing our haircut between Act 4 and 5.
You talked me into cutting my hair before we had to finish the show.
Yeah, I know.
We were only on camera. They wouldn't put me on anymore. So it was,
oh my goodness.
I'm sorry about that, but yeah, I did talk you into it. I swindled you into a haircut that was
and a razor shave.
Yeah. That was trendy back then. You look good.
He was old though. He was like 90, shaving me like.
Well, but that was the whole thing. Caputo would get up on an apple box, and when you thought your hair was short enough, you just kick the box out. And the haircut. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, all this talk of haircuts and the old days when people actually could get those. We kind of have to talk about the elephant in the room here when it comes to General Hospital and your characters. And one of the biggest tragedies that still befalls us, the chat is just blowing up about it, is BJ's death. What was it like filming those scenes, Brad and Jackie?
Go ahead, Brad.
It was. We didn't, as my memory serves, we didn't actually. We shot the rehearsal. They blocked us, and it was toward the end of the day, at least on the goodbye parts and stuff. And it was heartbreaking. It's the best way I could describe it, because
literally,
we cared about her too. So it was like family, like losing family.
Yeah, that you work with somebody. Brighton Hertford, who played BJ, was like, she was my TV daughter before I had real life daughters. So my first coloring pictures that ever went on my refrigerator were from Brighton, and I saved them all. So I just remember, first of all, the last scene of that I had with her. We're shooting it, and we, did it. And then they're like, she opened up one eye after we finished the take, and she said, "Why is everybody dripping on me today? I'm soaking wet." Because the tears were just flowing. And I remember another story I have about Brighton, which was so sweet. Kids at that age, because she was so young when we worked together. I remember, especially when she's like 2 and 3, and at 3 they start to realize the reality of what's going on. She always called me, either Bobbie or mommy. And in real life, she didn't know my real name was Jackie. And one day when she was about 3, she said to me on the set, "So what's your other name?" I said, "What do you mean my other name?" She said, "Your real name. What's your real name?" And this is after, with her for 3 years. I said, "Oh, it's Jackie." And she said, "Oh." She just kind of processed that. We were shooting a scene in the brownstone, and in the scene, I had to say to her, "Oh, we're going to go get some ice cream." And then we left the door, walked out of the scene of the door, and they yell, "Cut." And she says to me after they've said cut, "What kind of ice cream are we going to have?" The connection for a 3-year-old, it's not, "Oh, this is your lines, this is the fake, and this is the real." It's all real. So, there you go. And I said to props, if you got any ice cream in the back, because I want her to trust me next time. Yeah, that one doesn't tell me the truth. But it's an interesting example of what it's like to work with a kid, on TV. Mm-hmm. Brad, we have lots of stories, don't we, about things?
Yeah. Well, we had actually Brighton, and we also had Kin to raise. So.
Well, and y'all both worked with Ryan Carnes as a child and an adult. Did Ryan really grow up to be this respectable young man that became a doctor like Lucas Jones? Or are you just like, what is wrong with that boy?
Well, Ryan is, I love Ryan. He's like really good. He comes prepared. He's, all that. I heard they replaced Ryan.
Yes.
Somebody told me
Matt
that Ryan Carnes
is playing Lucas right now. Yeah.
Why is that? Did you know? Because I asked and nobody would tell me.
I don't know.
I'd love to know what happened. Yeah. So
me too.
Because he was very, he was popular and he was getting some storyline. And all of a sudden I wasn't in those storylines with him. It got smushy in there for a while. I don't know what was going on. So I don't know if Ryan's on or off, or if Ryan still plays the character, if this is a temporary replacement. It's been a while. But I don't know that he's been on in the storyline.
Yeah, we haven't seen Lucas or Ryan in a while. Now, Matt had played him this last year, but we've had a lot of temporary recasts and things like that. And most people do know Ryan, both playing Lucas as a child and an adult. And because they certainly associate when Brad came back as a ghost as Dr. Tony Jones. And those were some good scenes. It was so nice to see you come back. Would you be interested in being a ghost again?
Yeah, I loved it. I didn't feel like everybody said, oh, it's just like riding a bicycle. You just get back on. But it felt very different for me. They shoot so much faster now, and we shot so many more scenes. So I loved coming back as a ghost, but at the same time, I never quite felt like I got up to speed the way it used to be with Jackie and stuff. Like the moment I had my scene with Jackie, I felt incredible. But meeting Lucas for the first time after, it was different, and he's a terrific actor, but I just never quite felt like I was like, just give me a couple more shows to get back up where I can go get a haircut with Ken or something,
I thought you did great in those scenes, Brad, because I watch, me, I don't watch your shows. I just watch, if I'm there, what's going on the day. And I did watch your stuff, and I thought you were wonderful.
Oh.
You were wonderful. There was nothing lacking from those scenes that you did with Brian, and the scene that we had. Oh my God, that was the most real feeling scene I had in like a very, very long time on the show. And the reaction to that was really positive. People loved that scene. I think just because they had so much history with us, and to see that finally, it was an emotionally very rewarding scene. Not only for us to get to do, but for the audience.
Yeah, it was.
I
have a sort of funny story with Shell. If I had to tell you that you had brain cancer or something.
I remember that. Yeah,
I'm real emotional, and I love the scenes that we got to do. But the director came out after we shot the first scene, and he was like, Brad, I think you don't have brain cancer. It's Shell. And I'm wondering why you get to cry through the whole scene. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Because he goes, you're a doctor. Don't you think you should tell her and let her have some emotion? And it was like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Which director was that? Which director gave you that note?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
But it was a correct note. I was just like chewing the scenery here, because I love the scene. Shell, do you remember that at all?
I remember. I don't remember the director saying that, but I also do remember, like, Tony was also their friend. So that would maybe make some sense that there would be some of that emotion when you're having to impart that news. Yeah, that was a very sad, hard scene.
But I don't mean it as a criticism for whoever told me that.
No,
I know you don't, but you know what? Your character was always had a great sensitivity, I think, which is one of the reasons why the audience responded so positively to your character and wanted to watch your character all the time. Because a lot of doctors don't have, I shouldn't say they don't have, they don't show that kind of heart and sensitivity. It's more the nurses in a hospital that are the caregivers with the patients. Doctors come in, they read the chart, they're the scientists, they cut, especially neuro, my gosh, bum, 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 cutting it open, doing it, moving on. So I think part of the reason why the audience loved your character so much is because you did bring heart and soul to the part. So I think that, if you got upset, particularly like you're saying, Shell, that you were friends on the characters were close, I think it makes sense what you did.
I remember watching the show, and it was after Dominique had died. So, I was watching the air show, and I remember you two talking, your characters, and you had said, I just had to pack up her belongings. And he said, I just had to sign her death certificate. So it was like very much you as a couple, the two of you with, Ken and I, it was very much this whole, I don't know, it felt like it was, everyone was a part of that.
Yeah.
So watching that, because I hadn't seen you film that, it was a beautiful just scene.
But see, in those days, we were still character driven in those days. The show was character driven. And now it's all plot. So it's not, storylines now are not constructed for the characters. They come up with a plot with a story that they want to do, and then they place the characters like chess pieces into the story. So, there's a difference in how that manifests on TV in the scene.
Well, I remember with Ken, in the end scene, Ken, I think I was crying, and you were over me crying, and it was really hard because I was supposed to be gone, but I was crying. So it was like,
Yeah.
it was an amazing what Ken what he was able to do and project, and it was amazing.
Well, it's surprising to me is when I had to carry you back into the hospital, and I mean, you're a lightweight, but it was still very difficult to carry a girl, pick up a girl in your arms and carry her, 25 feet is a challenge in itself. Perhaps that's why I was crying. That's not easy to do.
You're bad. You go to the gym all the time. It wasn't that hard.
That's what I'm saying. But yes, I'm saying that, Jackie. I do go to the gym and I can, do 100 chin-ups every day. But I'm saying when you have to carry somebody,
100, really,
and not to say, but dead weight. And Shell, you're a feather. You're probably not over 99 pounds, but it was still very difficult. And a lot of people don't know that, especially when you see like old Rhett Butler carry what's her name up the stairs. That's even tougher, and going to carry up the stairs.
I do remember, I think in the scene, and I don't know how Dominique ended up or where, when you were bringing her back in, I remember seeing there was a stethoscope hanging from the blanket somehow. It's like, how did that end up there?
Why that was there? Was I listening for the heartbeat, the last beat? Because what am I? I'm no doctor.
But I remember seeing that.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you guys who are watching have any questions, but feel free to flow those in and we will try to get them but I am enjoying, just like a fan, just like you guys, listening to these stories of old. And as we're talking about Dominique and Scotty, we have to bring up the sad fact that your child, Serena, is Scotty's only living child. And it's so refreshing to see you be able to nod to that. But just like as we're talking about the stories of GH lately, they've been sort of gutting some poor families like yourself there. But there's also some lightness, like with Dr. Liesel Ulbrich. You and Kathleen Gotti are amazing and adorable.
We're being called the new super couple, the new Luke and Laura. There are all kinds of names coming our way. But the reality is General Hospital was built on camp and fun. So if her and I look like we're having a good time, that's what made General Hospital famous, was actors who were having a good time. Whether it was, that's the deal with soap operas. If the actors are having a good time, the fans will have a good time. So they're just so welcoming this sort of fun that's going on, unbeknownst to everybody at General Hospital, is that's how the show was built. That was built on camp, fun, and over the top plots. So we're just following the recipe, as they say. That was a recipe.
Well, think back. Yeah, you're right. In those days, those campy, fun storylines, and the disco. We were always disco dancing, having crazy music. Richard Simmons was on. We're doing aerobics. We're doing these dramatic cat fights in the room cards, and after working out. Well, we had fun stuff in those days.
we Shell and I did a bit before she got to cancer. We went to Hollywood under the guise we had a perfume company. And we completely ripped off the I Love Lucy episode where she spills the plate of spaghetti on William Holden. Instead, we got John Stamos to come back and play himself. Yes. And then we ripped off the Jackie Gleason going live. Hama, 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 hama. So we were having the time of our lives. And, at the time, Wendy Rich, who produced the show, she was going for it and having fun with us. So that was pure fun. And I think the audience, enjoyed it. They said, well, this is certainly silly and fun, but they seem to be having a good time. So we're having a good time. That's what I say.
That's what I say too.
Which made the Dominique death all the more dramatic because the couple themselves were having such fun. And, they gave her and only Shell could tell that story, but then they decided to, to give her the cancer and the whole thing, which then took it from here way over here. And the guy that wrote the show, wrote that stuff, his sister had passed away from cancer. So he knew every beat step by step by step.
Mhm.
So, and he wrote every beat step by step. So there wasn't a false moment as far as the reality of Brad, crying with the prognosis, but and that all went from goofy Batman, I Love Lucy comedy to real drama that was just as Brad said and Jackie said, it all things considered, I'd rather be in Philadelphia, but all things considered, doing comedy and fun is a lot more fun way to spend your day than coming in and crying over a baby or your wife dying, is the way I always looked at it.
Just a little bit of the flip side of this is that Jackie and our characters were very serious and did a lot of emotional things. But when we had surgery, I don't know if you know this or not, but Leslie Charleston and Jackie and I, we used to play tic-tac-toe on the sheets behind what you couldn't see as we operated. And oftentimes you would see us really upset over a patient, but it was because we had lost at tic-tac-toe in the blood. Just so you know. So we had fun, but it was behind the set. Because they also pulled a bottle of cough syrup out of my chest one time. So
Yeah, there you go.
we had some good.
And for the audience, if you're watching the surgeries, when you do those surgery shows, they have the body there, and then on the chest, they put a bucket of like fake blood. Like there's a bucket of blood, and then there's a bunch of like sponges and gauzes, and so when the surgeon puts his hand out, you got something to do. But the blood, the way they make it, it coagulates really quickly and it clots really fast. So the lights are very strong, and if you don't get the scene in the first take, by the second take, the blood is getting lumpy. It makes a mess.
Oh my goodness.
Lumpy blood is good times. And see, we love the drama on subs, but I love the new Sunny storyline they're doing because Maurice looks like he's having a good time. And I know for you, Shell, sadly, Dominique didn't have the best of times, but did you at least enjoy your time on the show?
I loved it, as I had, because I've been, digging up pictures and posting them. And that one I did of the 30th anniversary, and that was, I don't know, 28 years ago. Felt so good to be there, and I saw all those beautiful faces. And, as I had said, sadly, some of these people are no longer with us. But I remember walking in and like everyone just being so kind and welcoming and helpful from upstairs to cast to crew. Makeup room was always such a fun place to hang out. I loved it. And I just had great times, and I learned so much. And people really seemed like they wanted you to succeed. They wanted you to do well. That's an amazing work environment, especially if, you're just a young actress who hasn't done a lot. That was wonderful to have that.
Kelly McPolin says, is Shell still acting? She's a beauty.
Oh, well, I've been behind the scenes actually raising a daughter who just graduated college, which is amazing. And being artistic always, but I haven't been doing that.
Well,
You look gorgeous now. You've always been beautiful, but you've kept your look. You look fabulous.
Oh my gosh. You all look wonderful. Thank you so much. Ken, where'd you go?
I know. I'm like, what's he doing?
There he is.
I was just doing nothing.
Nothing, huh?
Jackie, was it you who used to run around the studio for exercise? Did you jog?
Every day. Yeah.
I remember that. I was always so impressed with you, and I remember then making the leather baby shoes for when you were having one of your babies, your
Yes.
beautiful daughters.
Yes.
I was always in my room doing stuff.
Making those shoes. Oh my God. I still remember. Oh my God. So beautiful. And yes, every morning, because I would get up every morning at between 3:30 and 4 o'clock. I'd get in my car because we lived in Malibu, which was really far from the studio. But if at that hour, the traffic wasn't bad. So I would just get in my car. I'd have my car packed with clothes. I would just get up and go in my sweats and run around the lot. The security lights were on because it was dark, and I'd run around the lot. And that's when I would learn my lines. I would do 3 miles every morning around the lot, which was 6 laps around the whole lot.
I remember that. I just was so impressed by that.
So I was doing 10 minutes miles in those days. So and then I know my lines. I'd go back, jump in the shower, hit the makeup chair, and boom, ready to shoot. So thank you for remembering that. Oh my God, it seems like a million years ago.
I remember that, Jackie, that you were circling that studio. We were all over on Port Charles, and there you were in the morning, running around, clutching that script, trying to learn your lines, which was astounding because I just can't do it that way. I can't do it. It's I salute you for being able to run and learn your lines at the same time. It was very difficult. Who's that coming in on me?
That's Trish.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day,
I could see. I didn't need glasses to read the script. Now, I don't know, I'd probably trip over myself if I tried to do that because I couldn't see it. I'd have to, but 20 years.
And I remember with you, I used to learn your lines too. And I remember we'd be going up the stairs and you'd be learning them and you go, what's my line? And sometimes I wouldn't know. And we go, Shell, you have to know my line.
Oh, that's kind of a girl thing though, because
yes, my husband will tell you that.
I could just look at her and she'd go, your line is this, Brad. And sometimes she would, in the middle of a scene, and this is a good thing, but she would take me by the shoulders and just lean me to the right place. The light was on me. And you become very dependent on people for that. And I appreciate it, Jackie, very much.
Oh, that's a good thing. Well, I would learn my lines by, I would learn them in the morning, but it's like a lot of it was photo memory. It would be like, what's that, annoying S word on the top of the 3rd page that I can never remember. But then once we get our blocking, because on General Hospital, years ago when I first came on, we did our own blocking. It was like theater. We'd come in the morning and the directors would say, okay, put it up. And you'd do like a stage rehearsal and you'd sit down and you'd actually block. And then the directors would match the shots to what you felt organically you wanted the blocking to be. Now it's all switched. You go up on the set and the directors have all the shots worked out and you're told, pick up the cup on this line, take a sip, put the jacket down over there, get up, rise, walk, sit down on that line, pull her to the sofa on that line, so it's all done ahead of time. So it's very different. So I would learn lines now according to what blocking is. They give you the blocking and then in my head I seal it in and I go, okay, this section is like standing up by the chair, this section is sitting on the sofa, this section is going out the door. It's just like for photo memory, it's just quicker to learn them like that.
I remember I used to because I would do like the photo memory too, and then sometimes I'd write them all out. I would just write them over and over until I had them. So was a lot of writing. But when I was teaching her to study, and that was one thing I would have her do sometimes, just write things out. So the act of writing it sometimes will really impress it.
Yeah, that helps me too. I mean, my kids learned to read, feeding me the lines. I used to pay them when they were little $2 a script. So they would run lines with me the night before. And, Costy and Lacey, that's how they learned to read. And they were really fast readers because that's how they learned. They had to do, for their $2, they had to do it 3 times. The first time we would both look, we could read it. The second time I would put my hand over it and try not to peek, but I'd have to peek. Third time I would not be allowed to peek.
Right. Wow. And I know the kids are taskmasters, really. And that's every problem.
And those scripts, I'm trying to think of Ben, I know it was Blink FM on the comments wanted to know what it was like with working with Sarah Brown, but were those types of scripts what your kids were reading? That's funny.
Yeah, well, Brad had all those hot steamy
Yeah.
scenes. I didn't have any
Oh,
hot
yeah.
steamy scenes with her. It was all Brad.
What were the color of the pages you would get when all of a sudden you'd get changes? You'd get the new pages. You'd be like, wait a minute.
They still do that, revised. You get all pink pages. Yeah. But Brad, you must have had fun with Sarah. I mean, my
Oh,
God.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was
Yeah,
a fiery actress and a really good one. So you had to have fun to keep up with her. But what I was just thinking about was we, in, the times when our golden years, I guess, we would have to learn 10 pages, 15 pages for one scene. That was like, and take, do your take. And we would shoot 10 pages in one take oftentimes, which.
Most of the time. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Scripts now are like
tiny.
2 pages, 1 page, 3 pages. 3 pages is a long scene.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to memorize because you just look at it before you do it. It's much shorter because it's all plot. Put it up, boom, next, moving on. So there's a lot of scenes in the show.
Do you remember we used to do all the blocking in the morning, then we'd get hair and makeup and then shoot in the afternoon, and sometimes it'd be 2 a.m. and you're still like doing those big shows. Like I think the Dominique Scotty wedding, I think we were there till like 2 a.m. It was like there at 4 or 5 a.m. until like
The
almost.
nurses' ball would go till dawn sometimes.
Oh my gosh!
A lot of times.
Yeah.
They don't now, and we don't because Disney doesn't want to pay overtime. So you get out on time. There's no OT. There's no second dinner break anymore. First dinner break for the audience would be like around 7:38. Second dinner break would be like 11:30 at night. And there's no second dinner break anymore, ever.
And I'm curious what it's been like for you to be shooting during the COVID, all this. I mean, because I know things are different. There's got to be protocols and stuff.
Yeah, you go in, you get tested. Everybody gets tested on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And you wear masks. You're not allowed in the building if you're not working that day. Only the people that are working are allowed in the building. You're only allowed in where you're supposed to be in the building. You're not allowed to go like up to the 5th floor or a different floor, and you have to wear a mask everywhere. You wear a mask through every minute that you're there. The makeup and hair people wear masks and face shields, and there's plastic partitions. And the only time you remove your mask, actors, the stage manager tells you after you've run the scene, okay, remove your mask. We're doing a take, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The second it's over, mask back on. That's how it is.
I'm so glad though that the soaps have been able to continue.
Yeah. And I hope that will continue,
I think it will.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the bright sides of COVID is that, when everybody came home, there's been this resurgence in daytime. And, because sadly there's only 4 soaps left, but a lot of this difference in the way that we're living and people being home more during the day has sort of led to a Pine Valley reboot of All My Children in the nighttime. And I remember when Port Charles premiered, it had a nighttime premiere, which of course, Ken, you were on, and Shell, you returned as a ghost, as Brad did as Tony.
Yes.
What was it like working on Port Charles?
Ken?
Well, as I always say, Port Charles was having a paper route. Because they would shoot Lynn and I and John Lindstrom first. So we started taping at 8:30. So this was a half-hour show. By 9:30, we were finished and sent home. So it's like, well, that's paper route. We just did a paper route. We came in at 7:30, and now we're out of here at 9. It was a 2-hour job. It was like we delivered our papers and went home. So it was very easy in that capacity because half-hour show is a half-hour show. There's not a lot of, you get 4 scenes, and yeah, maybe the scenes were a few pages longer back in those days, but it was quick. It was quick and simple, and I think our goal at the time was to really do a great show. So Lynn and I and John Lindstrom, everybody was always like, I think we can make this better. I think we could, make this better. And then sometimes I would say, I don't think you guys give this enough thought. And then they would say, Ken, I think you give it too much thought. So, there's the rub there, because you've got a new show it's a half hour, and it's a golden opportunity, and you want to make it the best possible. So that's why we always were trying to, make it great. And we tried, and the show lasted 7 years or so, 8 years. I don't know. I flipped out of there after 3 or 4 years to go back to General Hospital. I jumped ship like a rat, but that it was a sinking ship, but it was, they had moved on to different stuff. They were doing the vampires, and which was way ahead of its time, because, later on, it was called True Blood, that was a big hit. So they were ahead of their time with the stories, but then it gone into like, we're going to tell a 6-week story, and then we're going to like telenovelas. So, I wasn't there for that. I got out of there after, the first 3 or 4 years, and it was fun. Easy.
Yeah, to me, Port Charles is a real cult hit. I know I enjoyed it, but I was right in that age range, and it came out about the time of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But like you say, it was just a little too ahead of its time with all that vampire stuff. But it's similar to the love that soap you were on, Shell. Santa Barbara has that moment in time love. What was it like working on there?
That was a really interesting story of how I got that. I was living in New York, and I had done a screen test for Days of Our Life, and I got a call to go to LA to test for that, and then at the last moment they threw me in to also test the next day for Santa Barbara. So I tested on Monday for Days of Our Life, Santa Barbara Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm from California, so my cousin had came and picked me up, and we drove out to my dad's. Wednesday, I got a phone call. I got Santa Barbara. I had to be in wardrobe Thursday and was shooting Friday. My whole life was back in New York. So I was living in the Oakwood on Barham, like everyone does.
I know, I've been there.
I didn't drive anymore because I'd been living in New York. So I would sometimes walk to the studio. And it was wonderful. I met some wonderful people. Louise Sorrell, Nicholas Coster, who played Lakin's parents, and Raleigh Valverde, and A. Martinez, who was so wonderful. And it was so fun to watch him on Longmire. And I'm like, and that's not the A I remember. I mean, A is such an amazing human being. So I think I've just been really blessed in every experience I was able to do.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the chat has said, like Donald Peebles here, Shell kind of resembles Lynn Herring. Couldn't we bring you on as Lucy's sister?
Well, that would be fun. Yeah, we used to get that a lot. I love Lynn. I was asking Ken what she was up to and how she was. So it's cool. Ken and I will talk now and then and keep in touch through the years. And you saw I posted a picture. He came to our wedding. It was a medieval wedding. My husband wore a suit of armor, which we have in our basement, and we photographed my daughter in it, and she looks like Joan of Arc. It's amazing because she's 6 foot. But Ken came and brought Carly, and she dressed up, and it was great.
Yeah, little Carly. She I wonder if she remembers that.
I don't know. I would think she wasn't. I mean, she was young, but she was not.
Carly Schroeder was a kid, and her mother, for some reason, thought I was a good influence on her and would entrust her to me and say, "I'm going to drop Carly off." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do with her?" She goes, "I don't know. Figure it out." So we would do stuff, and people would say, "Is that your daughter over there climbing on those jet skis where she could break her neck?" I said, "Oh my God, it is. Is that?" So she was a little rambunctious, and I for the life of me had to always come up with like. And then she got bit by a dog once. My friend Axel's dog bit her, and I had to call her mother and say, not to worry. But Carly was so, it was always, and I did take her to your wedding. And I remember us driving down to Laguna Beach, and I wonder if she remembers that.
Well,
I don't know.
I have a couple precious
She was about
pictures.
9, 10, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do remember it, the whole, the suit of armor and the works. Yeah.
Wow.
Jacarius Naylor wants to know from you, Brad. Do you keep in touch with Jack Wagner, who played your brother, Frisco Jones?
No, I mean, but when we were on the show together, he was just like having a brother. He was easy to work off of. A lot of times, like Ken and Shell talked about, we just ad-lib sometimes, which, it was just easy to record. Jack's a very cool dude. So,
Yeah, but
Jack was a good actor,
Brad,
but Jack would never run lines. He wasn't run lines. Would he run with you? He would never run with me. I'd go in the maker, hey, you want to run lines? He'd go, nope, I'm good.
Brad probably remembers this, but Jack would come up on set, and if he wasn't in the scene, he would find a way to get as close to the camera lens as if he was really in the scene, but he wasn't in the scene. So he could just sit there and distract you and stare at you and cause you that for you to go up in your lines and go, "What, Jack? Why are you standing? You're probably 4 inches from me, but nobody can see you but me." Did he ever do that to you, Brad?
Yes, he used to, the camera switches between his shot and my shot.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the scene. He wasn't even about him. He just took it upon himself to just do it. He would be walking by, and he'd find a way to get as close in the scene. He had nothing to do with the scene. He wasn't in the scene.
Well,
he would just come up.
in the scene with me when the camera, the red light came on, the tally light on the camera. When it showed that I was on camera, while he was off camera, he would let a little bit of spit roll out of his mouth and then suck it back up until when it was time for him to talk. And I used to just be like this. And I remember one time in one of my comas that I was in, he sat behind where I was laying there, and I couldn't move. I was in a coma, and he had a whole monologue about how much he missed me and loved me and all that. But he stuck his finger in my ear that was off camera, slowly twisting it during the scene. And I was sitting there like this, And at the end of the scene, everybody was like, "That was incredible. It was like you were vibrating, Jack. That was, and I was like, okay. So we didn't tell him about the finger in the ear part.
Yeah, but that was like Chris Robinson back in the day when I had all those scenes talking about Laura. Chris was an old seasoned actor, and he always wanted to, he would just play footsies under the table while I'm saying, "Listen, Rick, I just need to talk to you about Laura." And he was playing footsies with me, and I'd say, we'd finish the scene, and I'd say, "Chris, Jesus, okay, I get it. You're trying to distract me, trying to get me to go up, but, I'm not going up, but you don't have to play footsies."
Yeah. He used to
Do you remember Gerald Gordon? Gerald Gordon would read almost every line off the prompter.
Every line. He had both
Every line.
prompters.
He never memorized the script. In those days, we had prompters. We haven't had prompters for a million years. But in those days, he would literally read every line off the prompter.
But he stood this way, and you'd be there so he could read both prompters from both sides.
From both sides. And he could turn his head. So he'd get the first half of the line. Yeah, on one prompter, and then he'd be moving it in, and he'd get the second half of the line on the second. It was hysterical. I mean, he had it down to science.
But you know what? Gerald Gordon, I worshipped him. And at lunchtime, he would throw his script in the air and say, "Come on, kid, we're going to the Brown Derby for lunch," which is, the famous Brown Derby in Hollywood. And I'd sit with him at lunch, and I thought, wow, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm 23 years old, and I'm hanging out with the king of daytime, Gerald Gordon. He was the big cheese in daytime from the doctors and General Hospital. And I said, this is it, man. This is what Brown Derby, Gerald Gordon. And, it was fun. I had a great time with him.
Yeah. Really fun. Really fun.
One time.
I teach acting in university now.
Are you qualified?
Bird?
I found out I couldn't act. That was what's weird, The more you teach, the less you know. But the interesting thing to me that I remember is that we really, like Ken was talking about Port Charles, and how much you could do with it, I remember how much everybody cared about it. I mean, they honestly, genuinely, there was none of that, oh, you're just on a soap opera, you're just doing a soap opera. You know, as far as I was concerned, and Jackie and I think everybody here, it's like we were doing the most serious kind of wonderful, intense theater or film or anything that we'd ever done. And I think we believed it every day. It wasn't until I got off the soap that I was even aware people didn't think much of me or of your acting or something, you know.
I think
you were
what
a fine actor,
crazy.
so you know.
Yeah.
We believed it, and we worked just as hard as any people.
And-
I tell
And
my
don't you find that you have people coming up to you still sometimes? I have a dear friend now, but she was her name's Joanne, and she's in Canada, and she's watching. There's a few people that have been so exciting that have been my friends for years, Tony Pisani. But Joanne, we met in a very interesting way, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this story. She had a dear friend named Shelley who was very ill, and she used to get in bed with her, and they would watch General Hospital. And they were together following the whole story of Dominique and Scotty and the love story. And her friend passed away. And they had watched, Dominique die. And I had this little store where I make my daughter, I would make fairy wands and things. And she found my store, and she ordered a wand in honor of her friend Shelley. And I always say that story brought us together. And I've had a lot of people come up and tell me that story meant so much to us. And because we've lost people or we've gone through that, and they really connected with it. So I think sometimes you don't realize the ripple effect you have just in giving a voice to people's pain or their experiences.
Yeah, the organ donation of BJ's heart,
Mm-hmm.
people still come up to me all the time and go, that's the reason I'm an organ donor. And I'm like, oh,
Wow.
it's crazy.
Wow.
That wasn't that popular back then.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, because
those
that
were the
story
days you
still
had to get a
ripples.
special thing for your license, but it was early
Yeah.
on, right? Yeah, so people didn't know. It wasn't like they had the dot. You had to get a special card. They sent you like a paper thing, and you kept it attached to your license, so they would know, that you were an organ donor.
But it's very crazy to me because people still come up to you and ask you about that. And I'm like, gosh, you must be old. But they remember it,
Well, I mean, the BJ's Heart storyline is still going today. I mean, Maxie Jones is still a character on the show, and that moment is always brought up, just like with Scotty and Dominique. And people have these stories. I mean, and that's essentially what the soaps are about, and what we all were looking for in this past year, where everybody was at home, was that connection again, and reliving all of these memories that people still talk about today. And it's so great that you all were able to join us. And thank you so much for giving us your time here at Sun Live. As we bid adieu to fans, is there anything you guys have left to say?
Can I just ask Shell, do you still make the fairy wands?
I make all sorts of stuff. Yes, I do.
Do you have a store on Etsy, or where are you?
I do. It's called Shell Danielson Design. There's not much in it right now, but we have been
I'm going to write it
my
down.
husband, actually, during the pandemic, this is hysterical. He's been building birdhouses. I've been painting them, and now we've got these commissions. But yeah, I've made a lot of crowns and fairy things. Yes.
I'm going on your website. For my granddaughter, Kennedy, I've been wanting to get her a wand.
Oh, okay.
crown. I just got her a fairy door, fairy for the garden, fairy door. They gave it to her yesterday. She loves it. So she's ready for a wand. Okay, thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Shell makes incredible things.
Thank you
All
guys.
right, how about you guys?
Thank you, everybody. Ken,
Yep.
Jackie,
Yeah.
call me.
Yeah, Brad, the eyes of Texas are upon you, right? You're still in Texas, right?
Yes, I am. I love it.
We'll get you back on the Bay. You did some stuff. Well, on the other one, the Bay, the other show.
Yeah.
Come back to LA.
No, it was great. I did like 3 different television series while I was out there in
I
one
know.
day.
So you get cast if you're here. Boom, boom, boom. Because they don't want to pay for plane tickets anymore and all that. They just want you to be here. But
Yeah.
maybe we get
Brad,
you.
you wouldn't even recognize LA. I drove down your street the other day over there in Sherman Oaks, and everything has changed so drastically here in Los Angeles. It's unrecognizable.
Yeah. I think my house doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh God, no, really?
Yeah,
Oh my God, that beautiful house.
That's what I heard. It's a rumor.
No, I'm not sure it is because I went down your street.
You know, when I went back as a ghost, I haunted that house for a little bit.
Yeah, you haunt the house.
God,
There's
that
two
house-
ghosts.
Yeah,
You got Dell
Dr.
and you
Funny
have a couple of
Jones'
ghosts.
back.
We got ghosts.
We all went trick or treating in Brad's neighborhood every year.
We did.
All the kids. That was our trick or treating turf. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now is our SoapCon the kickoff. This is the premiere of the SoapCon. And
Yes,
Susan Eisenberg, my friend Wonder Woman, has got this going, and you got this going, and hopefully,
Thank you so much.
you already did your One Life
thank
to
you, guys.
your other panels and stuff, and I'm sure we were the best.
Yeah, you
panel,
guys are the
but-
last one, of course.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
General
it's
Hospital.
true.
You guys are still on the air. So again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us, guys, and
Thank you.
have a great night.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll catch you later.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for the inaugural SoapCon live event. I'm so happy to have brought this to you with Susan Eisenberg and Alan Locher. We would like to thank the Retro TV, It's Real Good TV, Soap Opera Digest, Believe Networks, and of course, the Locker Room, as well as you guys. So if you want to meet and greet any of the people you've seen tonight, like the GH panel with Kin Shriner, Brad Maule, Jackie Zeman, and Shell Danielson, just go to soapconlive.com. You can find all the info there. You can also get autographs and meet video greetings, as well as all sorts of news and gossip as well for the soaps. Just hang out at soapconlive.com, guys, because this is our first event, not our last. Enjoy.